SB3, man, walk us through the update here, because it looks like, to the surprise of probably nobody at this stage, it doesn't look like it's going to be a happy ending for CM Punk and AEW. In fact, it looks like they're just brokering exactly how they're going to part ways.
Yeah, this came out first from the Wrestling Observer newsletter. They reported that CM Punk may be on his way out of AEW because the company is looking to buy out the remainder of his contract following the brawl out with the Elite. It was noted that AEW is still talking with Punk about a return, but it's currently doubtful that will happen. And the talks of a buyout suggest that AEW isn't looking to bring him back. And the sticking point in the negotiations is a non-compete clause, which would prevent WWE from scooping him up right away if they wanted him back or if he wanted to go back. But he's injured currently. They said that he is in no contact with anyone from WWE, but he is friends with Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman. And then Wade Keller of PW Torch, he did his audio show over the weekend where he noted that most of the AEW locker room do not want to have Punk back. They feel like the leadership void that went when he left and the Elite left have been filled by Jericho, Danielson, and Moxley. So it's kind of, he also said that many influential names in WWE wouldn't want CM Punk back, but that is something that is more likely under Triple H than it ever was.
Well, yeah, if there was a guy who would, put it to one side and probably propose something interesting to CM Punk, I would imagine it would be Triple H, but do I see that happening? I really don't.
I mean,
I wouldn't count on it.
If there's anyone in this world that you could say has a worse relationship with Triple H than Vince McMahon, it would probably be CM Punk. So if Triple H wanted to have the big big coup of signing somebody, it would be
I'm running already.
I know, really. It would be CM Punk, because that would kind of, a lot of people talk about Vince McMahon and his ability to talk to people that he's had a bad relationship with, whether it's Bret Hart coming back for the Hall of Fame, whether it's Bruno Sammartino coming back, Ultimate Warrior, the list goes on and on. Triple H doesn't have that quite yet. He's only 2 months into his regime. CM Punk would be that.
Yeah, again, so it's hard to kind of say, based on history, because really Triple H hasn't had a chance to mend that fence per se yet. But a lot of people have made the point that, okay, well, maybe taking CM Punk away from AEW has a certain amount of luster that just bringing CM Punk in from the cold from 7 years might not have had, right? Like, that people are making arguments as to why Triple H actually might consider such a move, if there's money to be made, etc., etc. I've got to tell you, Roman Reigns looks like he hates him from every interview that I've ever watched. Just looking at the landscape there, I don't think it'd be the most welcoming environment for him. Oh, for God's sake. Most environment for him. I don't know, Kenny. Where do you sit on this? Where, A, is it the right thing for AEW to cut him loose? And B, what does CM Punk do from here? Does he go into retirement, or is there one last run?
I could probably answer that question for 1 hour. So I'm going to try to really minimize everything that I would think about that. So I think that one of the things is, let's remember when Triple H and CM Punk last interacted, it was when CM Punk was offered the Triple H WrestleMania match, and he said, "I don't need a match with you, you need a match with me." That was the line, right? The AEW stuff, I feel really conflicted about it, because I do accept that Punk was a complete prick in the press conference and all that. Is there part of me that still really likes him? Yes. And I can't, like, I kind of like the idea that he's, you're with me, so let's think, he's CM Punk, and he had, in that year run that he had, I think the only person I could compare as good a run in AEW so far would be Jericho's first year. Nobody else has had a full year like CM Punk. Like, the promos, the matches, he made it feel big. I feel that AEW has been missing something since he left. But at the same time, they had to let him go. I mean, Tony Khan should have dealt with it way sooner, and that's something that really needs to be sort of on the docket. Like, if Paige did, I know we've mentioned this 100 times, but if Paige did the promo in May, and Punk was annoyed, and then Punk came back and did the retaliation, that day they should have been in an office together going, right, we need to get on the same page. Yeah. That's what you would think a boss of a wrestling company would do, not let it fester and fester and fester and get worse. So, but he had to let him go, he can't come back based on all the stuff that's happened. So, and in the WWE thing, 6 months ago, I'd have said never. But then, I mean, 2022, Steve Austin main evented WrestleMania, and it's not even one of the top 5 stories of the year. Like, what? So, but at the same time, if anybody thinks that WWE would not do everything in their power to get CM Punk back, you're right. Because let's remember, CM Punk wanted and was open to going back in 2019. That's when he did the backstage thing. Fox wanted WWE to sign him, and they were hesitant at the time. So I think Triple H will serve a big slice of. We'll eat the shit to get him back. And the Roman Reigns thing is like, I mean, we've seen in wrestling for years people who hate each other being the best of friends on screen because it will create a moment. So I think CM Punk. I'm going to make a prediction. I think by the end of 2023, CM Punk has headlined a WWE pay-per-view.
Wow. I mean, this is the thing. Like, if he comes back, then
wouldn't you love to see it?
No, I would. Like, please don't get it misconstrued. Like, I'd rather see CM Punk in a ring again than not. Right? Like, I agree with everything you just said. I thoroughly enjoyed his year in AEW. I guess all the reasons for not advocating for CM Punk are things that we're not privy to. Right? All of this being hard work behind the scenes and being a bit of an arsehole, which have kind of followed him around his whole career. Let's be honest. It's like those are not the things that really concern us, right? We just love the promos and the storylines and the matches. So any reason to not bring him back, I'm not going to really sit here and make an argument for that. If it happens, I'd be really happy. Just trying to be a realist and wondering, okay, what do you do if you bring him back for WWE? Because again, remember when he left and it was like, oh, I wanted to wrestle. He wanted to headline WrestleMania, right? Like, what could you really bring to the table that would excite CM Punk to bring him back, right? You're probably going to have to put him on top, right? Or in the top program at the very least. Him and Roman Reigns probably could make some good money. But again, I just don't know if I see a place where CM Punk happily resides in WWE. I think he might come back and do something, sure. Very difficult for me to imagine Punk on like the Brock Lesnar schedule where he just does. Like, I would love it. I really would. Where he just comes in and he works with different guys. But
well, here's a question for both of you: Who do you think is less likely to want to do it, WWE or CM Punk?
Punk,
easily.
Definitely,
easily. Not that he wouldn't. Not that he's closed. I don't think he's totally closed-minded to it, like you alluded to. I think he seemed more receptive, and whether that's a negotiation tactic or whatever around that time, who knows, right? With backstage and whatnot, and then AEW gets created. But it's like he doesn't need to, which is crucial. He didn't need to do AEW. He could have just stayed. But I think we all saw with his AEW run that that's kind of when he's most alive and doing his best work. And you can't tell me he doesn't still have the itch to be like the main event in WWE, right? If Triple H comes with the right story, all right, okay, you and Roman, WrestleMania, whatever. Like, I find it very hard to believe that Punk would go, you know what? So I could see something short term. I'm just not sure of him being a fixture in a Triple H world with the sour taste of 2011 in his mouth. I'd like that. There's a lot to unpack there that we probably don't have time to all get into.
But then, I mean, I think one of the things is if you at the press conference, I can't. Although somebody, if you're British, you'll get this reference. Said this might go over your head, but somebody said that Punk at the press conference reminded them of Alan Partridge eating a Toblerone when he has a mental breakdown and tries to Dundee in his bare feet. Yeah. So that was quite funny to think about. But the thing with Punk is, even though he was a prick at the press conference, he is going to see it that he was majorly slighted here. He's going to see it as, he's been the one that's vilified. He's been the one. Because the difference is between the WWE leaving is he was the hero when he left. Yep. He was everybody thinks you're the hero. He's now the villain to a lot of people. Does he care about that? Maybe not. But maybe he does. Maybe, I mean, look, if you can not be the villain anymore and you can be the hero and get paid big money to do it, and you can fuck over these guys that you feel have slighted you, it's possible.
I mean, that's a very good point, right? Like, let's say, because if he goes, presumably Omega and Buck stay, right? Yeah, and then there might be that chip on his shoulder where he thinks, fuck you, right? Like, I will go back to WWE, make probably more money than he did in AEW. I mean, I don't know, it'd probably be close, but more money. He'd like Kenny says, he'd get that hero's welcome. It would be this, you know, it wouldn't just be that I was away for 7 years or whatever. It'd be I was away for 8, and it's like, you know, as if AEW never happened to some of those WWE fans. They're like, Punk's back.
Well, you know they're gonna do that. They literally told us for months that Cody Rhodes has been gone from wrestling for gone from the business for 6 years. So
Because the
I
battle.
think the best argument is what Kenny said is that spite can be a very motivational tool. And if anyone in wrestling business and wrestling history is spiteful, it's CM Punk. So
Yeah.
CM Punk, just to spite AEW going to WWE, that's why I think it's a realistic option. The other part of me that thinks is not very realistic is that it took 3 years and CM Punk's biggest mark, his biggest fan, talking to him and begging him to come back to the business for him to come to AEW. For someone that he hates his guts and has established that he does not like Triple H at all, not even a little bit. There's never been a moment. He's had a good moment with Triple H. This man, Triple H, he felt Triple H was still upset with him that he got cheered over him in Philadelphia at Survivor Series 2006. That's the memory that CM Punk has. CM Punk remembers every single moment he's had with Triple H. It's not going to be something that happens next year. I think that's very hopeful to think that CM Punk is going to main event a show in WWE by the end of 2023. I don't see it. I can see him main eventing WrestleMania 40. If you want to put money on that, I might be interested in that offer. But 2023, I'm sorry, based on the history that these two have, it's going to take a little bit longer to me.
It's worth noting if it weren't for the pandemic, his AEW debut happens sooner than it does. Right, I know we talk about the 3-year courting period with Tony.
Well, here's something I remember. Right, this is a little inside story. I remember working at What Culture with WCPW. I remember the Young Bucks were on one of the shows, and I remember they were in the back of a car, and this would have been 2017. It would have been 2017, and and it was like a van, and the Bucks were in the back with a couple other wrestlers, and I was at the front with the driver. And I overheard the Bucks talking about, oh, Punk just texted and said he loved that match last week. And it was like, even then, there was a little relationship with Punk and the Bucks. And then they get to AEW. And then, that took years to make that deal happen.
Yeah.
So it was in the works. So the only thing going, I mean, and I do want to say one thing about spite, right? Just a personal story to take over the show. But like, so I mean this honestly. I mean it totally sincerely. I really care if people like me or not. I really want to be liked. I really try and be nice to people. I try and say please and thank you all the time. I try and give people time. There was a guy told me once that somebody was saying I was a prick on a Facebook group for the love of wrestling in 2019, and I was a dick. It was like, who's the nicest wrestler you've ever met? And he was like, tell you who's a prick, Kenny McIntosh. I joined the group to respond to go, I'm sorry you had a bad experience. But the Undertaker thing was happening, and I was pretty much suicidal that week. So I was really not in a place to care too much about what I was just trying to like keep it together. But so that's how much I really try to like want to be liked and be a nice person, right? However, in 2013, there was a podcast called the Ministry of Slam podcast. They were doing it at the same time as Inside the Ropes. One of the guys who ran it would badmouth me to everybody all the time, but be really nice to me to his face, right? Which is fine. Then we started doing the live shows. We did DDP, we did Colt Cabana. Then they announced the NWO Wolfpack tour. And that was bad enough because I was like, oh, well, they're doing this because we're doing it. It's a complete reaction thing. Then they got in Power Slam magazine, got Sean Watman promoting their thing, right? Which I never got to do because Power Slam ended. But luckily, who got the last laugh? However, so anyway, this guy faked a heart attack during the NWO tour because he had fucked it so badly.
Teddy Long style.
But he had badmouthed me so many times, and we did a show the next week with Sunny, who we had announced the show, and then she announced she had ovarian cancer the next week, so that sells a lot of tickets. So we then do that show, which was awful. But do you know what got me through and continued to do those live shows? Pure spite. I was like, I will make sure that we do shows that are remembered for a good way overall. Even the Undertaker thing, when it went the way that it went, I was like, we need to do more, we need to do better, we need to erase the memory of that. So spite is a very powerful thing, even if you're a nice person. I don't think Punk's a particularly nice person, so he might have even more spite than I would have. Spite's a strong thing, is my point.
I'm the same as you in the sense that like I go out of my way to be like super nice online just because I think that's a cultural issue anyway, right? Like the way it's gotten, how everyone's so comfortable being dickheads. So then it really fucking bothers me when people are like overtly nasty for no reason or something, right? Like you take it personal when you shouldn't. Like so much to the point as like I'm not going to like name names or anything, but people that I like will be like, this person's a great follow, and I'm like, no, they're fucking not. And like it doesn't matter that they like them.
Yeah,
I have them blocked, and I only have like under 10 people blocked, right? Because it takes a lot for me to be like, fuck you. Like mute is normally the other one.
Sid, you're laughing a bit too much. We'll pick up on that in a
No,
second.
I was gonna complete the trifecta because he reminded me of me being spiteful and holding a grudge. Not gonna name names either, but I saw Alex take a picture with someone that I have a history with, and I had my missus, who's also a very spiteful, who can be very spiteful, say like, "What the hell is your friend doing with this person?" And I had to be like, "Are you cool with him, man?" And Alex was like, "No, I don't know who that was." I was like, "All right, cool." So yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I was at Mania, and I was like, I don't even know who that guy is. Leslie 3 was like, but there was in that photo we had a mutual friend who we both love.
Yeah.
So that explains all. But yeah.
But look, the thing is, the point of this whole thing is we've all given examples. I mean, mine is more to do with a real professional grudge of somebody bad man, but we all have these like smaller examples of why we have spite for various things, right? CM Punk was in a multi-million-dollar contract, felt slighted by Tony Khan, basically slated him through a whole public scrum. Then there was a fight, and then he's the one who's basically is going to be ostracized. So imagine the level of spite. I mean, if I was CM Punk, right, I would go back to WWE in a fucking heartbeat.
But that's the thing, because spite is so motivating, he also has spite towards them.
Like, who do you have more spite against?
More recent.
Yeah.
Right? Recency bias is a thing, right?
Yeah,
like it would be, enemy of an enemy and all of this stuff.
I'm sorry. I've said it once. I'll say it again. This is the reference for Boondocks fans. CM Punk is the white stink meter. That man has hate in his heart. He has that hate, and he just wants to give it out. And I think that this man has a long memory of it as well. This man pre-rehearsed that whole rant, add it all out. You telling me he's just going to be like, yeah, I have so much spite for AEW. You know what? I'm going to go back to WWE. I'm going to forget AAA. I'm going to forget the doctor that didn't diagnose me probably. I'm going to forget all. I'm going to forget I was in a lawsuit with people from WWE. I'm going to forget all of that because I'm not spiteful against AEW. No, I'm honestly going to just think like he's CM Punk. He's going to get paid for all the years. So even if he wants to wrestle again, he probably won't be able to wrestle till well into 2023, 2024 because of his deal with AEW. And that's how a buyout works. They buy you out. They'll have a non-compete clause. That's the whole holdup in this situation. Yeah. And a non-compete clause could be a year or two. It could be the remainder of his contract. So if I'm CM Punk, I'm going to get paid for a whole bunch of years I didn't work in the business. And I'm already got money from before my last run. I'm good with the business. I'm done. I'm over it. I'm done being the bad guy. I'm done being the hero. I'm done being the martyr. I'm done with it altogether.
That's what's amusing though, right? Where it was almost like, when people made these assumptions or assertions that CM Punk was a bit of a problem or an arsehole or whatever, and it was always like, oh yeah, but he was in the big bad WWE machine. He's had time now, and he's at peace and he's in his own place and he feels better, and then the problems come back again. So
I will say this though, it is very impressive that someone can take the top spot in Story of the Year over Vince McMahon being ousted and having to retire and Steve Austin coming out of retirement. He trumped both of them. If that's not someone, and here's the thing, like I have met a few CM Punk type people in my life. Like I know the kind of person that I think I know the kind of person that he is. And I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he's a very passionate guy. I think he's got very high levels of sort of like his friendship expectations are very high. And I think if you cross that, it's a complete no-go. So I think he's just someone who he won't compromise in anything of how he feels about people. And that I see how that's seen as like, so like if I was friends with CM Punk, I'd be on edge constantly. I believe.
Yeah.
Are
But
we
you
good?
can also see how maybe that's played a role in the success as well. It's a double-edged sword, I guess, right? Like,
Yeah.
you know, having that way.